record this. That way you can like pause it, go back, all that. Okay. So at the beginning of the lesson, Angela tells her track coach that she has a paper due soon and she has yet to start it. She has put herself in the position of waiting until the last minute to complete the paper. So what's so this is just asking you to think about like what are pros of waiting until the last minute to do something and what are the cons of waiting for the last minute to do something. So it's just asking you to think about like if I wait until my paper is due like in 2 days, what are the pros of that? So maybe you could say, like how much time you have left that like you have to complete it in. Or maybe Angela works well under pressure or something. But you'll kind of see here, even the way that they've set up this table, there's not a lot of room for you to put a whole lot of pros. It's more about cons, right?
Yeah.
So, like I'm sure it went over in the tutorial, if you think about the cons, here we go. So, lack of planning. So, if you're only giving yourself a day or two, you're not going to be able to plan out your paper. So, you won't have an adequate outline, you won't have good resources, and you won't have the opportunity to make a bunch of edits and revisions and have somebody look over your paper. So, that's kind of what you're thinking here. Like, what is good about waiting until the last minute to do a paper, and then what's bad about waiting till the last minute. And I mean, stress, just like even that's a con. So if you just put like a couple, you're not, you don't need to put too much in either of those tables. And then part B is just like, did you think of more things that were positive about waiting till the last minute or more things that were negative about waiting till the last minute? And then why do you think that is? Did I explain that clearly? Does
Yeah.
that like, is that more clear now?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So it's just kind of like this activity is meant to get you to not wait till the last minute. I think that's all that is about. Okay, this one we can do a little bit more together. And I can like talk this one out a little bit more. Let's see if I can use this tool to make some marks in places. Okay. So okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to read this essay, and then what the activity wants you to do is rewrite it. So the easiest thing for you to do would be first to just copy and paste it. And I think that it very intentionally doesn't let you if you right click like we're used to, it doesn't let you have the paste option. So if you select it all, and then on your keyboard, if you hold down the button that says Control, or it's like CTRL, it just depends on your keyboard, and hit C, it'll copy it. And then if you hold down Control again and hit V, it'll paste it. I want to do that on my keyboard. Mine's a little different because I'm not using a PC. But yeah, and then it'll just copy it right onto there. So that'll be like the first step. It'll just make it a lot easier so you're not typing out the entire thing again.
Okay.
Cool. And then from there, what it's asking you to do is rewrite the essay to improve the flow between sentences as well as between the paragraphs by inserting transitional words. So this whole idea is probably back here. Yeah, on this focus on language. What's funny is that the instructions actually give you a transitional word too. Um, so we have a bunch of examples of transitional words and phrases provided in the tutorial. So let's talk about them. So if you're trying to add information, elaborate on ideas, stuff like that, we have transitional words that do that. And so transitional words are just kind of things that help us connect ideas together. So and is a transition, not only, but also, likewise, additionally, similarly, in addition, moreover, furthermore. And so we usually start our next sentence with these transitional words to make that connection and have things move more fluidly from sentence to sentence. So you have this example down at the bottom. Research papers must have strong thesis statements. Additionally, they must cite credible sources of information. So we can leave out the additionally, and there's still two perfectly good sentences. It's just because they connect to each other, it makes more sense and it makes things flow easier, and then, just really provides that connection by using that transitional word. We have words to give examples. So, for example, for instance, specifically, such as, in this case, so on. You have contrasting, but, however, on the other hand, although, nevertheless, regardless. Words to express a concession. Oops. Too many scrolls. Okay. Sometimes you're conceding means that you're like recognizing that there's another opposing viewpoint. So like yet, nevertheless. So down at the bottom with the example, the phrase even though is used to counter the idea that the economy is recovering. So even though the economy is recovering, a substantial percentage of the workforce is unemployed. And so in this case, you could even switch the two phrases around. So a substantial percentage of the workforce is unemployed, even though the economy is recovering. So you can kind of see how it both ways connects those sentences together. And you have similarity, so likewise, similarly, again, as well as cause and effect. So as a result, therefore, thus is always a fun one. You have time, so like first, second, third, finally, as long as, all of that. Goodness, scrolly thing is fun. So when you're expressing conditions, you're saying like that these things, like one has to happen for the other. So you have like or, whether, in the event that. These are a little bit less common. In fact, actually, in other words, namely, are really like emphasizing things, usually closer to like the end of stuff, when you're really saying like most of all, certainly, all of that. You're really trying to like emphasize that that's the main idea. And then alternate ideas are just saying like either, alternatively. So the example down at the bottom, it just uses or, but you could use most of these other transitional words too. So students can choose to study in their own rooms, or they can study in their school library. So you could say students can choose to study in their own rooms, or alternatively, they can study in their school library. You can see like how you can just sort of swap them around. So, okay. I took it away because I didn't hit submit. Okay, so I'm going to read through the whole thing, and then we can kind of see like where some of those transitions would go in to make this a little bit easier. And I'll make like actual marks and stuff where we think that they could go, and then we can talk about what ones. So, most of us associate gardening with our grandmas and grandpas. We associate it with people who are recovering from an illness. We have seen older folks get gently tending to rows of hydrangeas or tomatoes. It just isn't something younger people are supposed to do, right? The truth is, an increasing number of young adults and kids are getting into small-scale farming or gardening. Schools across the country have initiated programs that involve working in gardens or small community farms. The Edible Schoolyard Project helps make farming fun for young folks. The project was started in 2005 by Alice Waters. She wanted to transform a vacant lot into an edible kitchen in a school in her neighborhood. It blossomed after 2005 into a nationwide campaign to involve kids in the food growing and production process. The program lets school kids of varying ages grow their own fruits and vegetables. It then teaches them interesting recipes that are simple too. Imagine the joy kids experience in the different stages of growing their own food. They plant the seed. They watch the plant grow. They take care of it. They pick its fruit and eat it. Farming has other benefits. It relieves stress. It helps kids stay fit. It lets kids connect with the community. Gardening or farming can be fun for teenagers or adults. People of all ages can enjoy it. So I made some marks, if you can see, as I was reading through it, just because I was like, transitional phrase, because that's how my English teacher brain, oh no, that's how my English teacher brain works. Apparently I can't move things or everything moves. So, oh my goodness, okay. Let me do some. Two of them. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so let's see. None of the things I want to do right now are going to work. Okay. So basically what we're going to do is just kind of think of, what we can put in. I think the easiest might be to start down actually closer to the bottom here, because we have time, like time related transitions. So if we look here, time or sequence, so you have like first, second, finally, in conclusion, and summary, meanwhile, consequently, as long as, whenever. So if we're looking here, imagine the joy kids experience in the different stages of growing their food. So right here, instead of starting it with they, we might say first, right? Like first they plant the seed, then second they watch the plant grow, then they take care of it, finally they pick its fruit and eat it. Do you see how that works?
Yeah.
And then, farming has other benefits, such as it relieves stress. Furthermore, it helps kids stay fit. That's basically what you're doing with this one. You're just kind of seeing like how you can insert those. So I think that while you're doing the work, if you're looking at where I put these lines and kind of listening to what I just said about the end, hopefully that makes sense. Do you think that you'd be able to do it on your own with that help that I've given you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let me know if you have more questions, like as you're going through it. I think that like once you get in there and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, totally. And it might even help you to like write down some of the transitions so you're not like flipping back and forth, especially because if you don't hit submit, it won't save any of the work that you did. So if you write some of them down, that can be helpful. And then before I forget, have you seen in the resources that you have guided notes available for you? Have you seen this before?
No.
This is a new thing. Back in the day, I created all of the guided notes for everybody, but these are pretty cool. If you happen to have a printer at home, if you don't, it works just as well. But just some things, like if you want to download these, they can be helpful to just use on tests and for your activities and stuff. They're created by Edmentum, so they're meant to really help you. All this information can be found in the tutorial. So that should be useful there. So those are the 2 lesson activities that are in this first one. So hopefully you feel a little bit more confident about getting through that work. And then, if you're going through the other tutorials and you have questions, I'll totally help you with that. And like I said, if we meet again, or if I can just send you some videos, we'll figure it out. And then I really wanted to show you this. Okay. So this activity is confusing. I think it's just the way that it's worded. Okay, so in this task, you'll write a historical fiction story. You're going to choose a historical personality. And then you're going to research some information about your character, but you're making up a story. So there's some instructions here that just kind of tells you, like, it wants you to do some research to like look up information. So let's just, for an example, let's say you want to write a fictional story about Martin Luther King Jr. So you probably need to like find out some specific facts about his life. And so that's what you're doing as far as the research is. And then you just have to come up with some like idea. And basically it's meant to be based off of some element of reality, like in their lives. It's a historical fiction story. So like you might write a story about the speech that Martin Luther King gave on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, but you might write about like a conversation he had with his wife or something like afterwards. You're just being a little bit creative, but using a real person and an event that really could have happened. And then here's some like pro tip stuff. This is some of the things that you want to look for. So having this in the video will be a little helpful too, because not all students get to see all this fun stuff, but it just gives you an idea of what we are looking for, but mainly it's just the biographical information being included there. So task 1 is actually putting your story in. It actually, I don't know why they do it this way. I feel like it would make sense to do task 2 first. So task 2 asks you to write a character explanation. So why did you choose the person that you chose? How did you decide what events from their life to use? And then how did you put those elements of their actual life into making a fictional story? And then just include any sources that you use to find information about the author in there. Everybody always puts everything in the wrong order because, like I said, it's a little bit confusing as to what order it is. But you're not reading a book or looking up anything like that. You're basically just finding somebody from history that you think is important and you want to write a little fictional story about for fun. Except it's work. Cool. Anything else that I can help you out with? Does that help? Do you feel a little bit better about doing your English work there?
It actually did help a lot.
Yay.
But I actually like this is like I actually want to get more on top of my work. Like I actually want to like start turning more units in if I can. Like I know like I'm slow and I know it's harder for me, but I want to like cuz I looked at how like on my student chart I looked like how I was doing like on like how well I was doing it, and I seen that I wasn't doing that well.
Let's pull you up. You've had a lot going on though, so don't be hard on yourself for sure, but let's see. I hate when I push certain buttons, certain things don't pop up. Sorry, I got a big old long message. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna stop the recording now.